everybody, welcome back. I'm back, kind of. Yes. Well, this is probably a one-off video, to be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves. I thought I'd come on here to share my experience of getting the copper coil, because when I was researching getting the copper coil, I didn't find anything useful. The horror stories, oh my god, there were more than I can count, and it really kind of took a lot to persuade me to get this. So yeah, and also I found a lot of stuff on the hormonal coil, but not the copper coil. So that's why I'm doing this video for you. And I'd just like to point out that this video will mention the female reproductive system, and also sex, and also contraception, and just general, not graphicness, but like reality, as in I say how it is. I'm not gonna beat around the bush, as it were. Pussyfoot around it, if you'll pardon the pun. So yeah, I'm just gonna be open and frank with you, so if that makes you feel uncomfortable, then feel free to exit this video now. I'm basically just wanting to share my experience so that you can have some kind of positive light on the copper coil, because if you're researching it and you're anything like me, you probably won't find anything good about it. But I, for one, have had a so far very positive experience, so I wanted to share that with you. So yes, without further ado, let's get into my experience so far with the copper coil. Enjoy. So, a bit about me and my contraceptive background. I haven't been on any form of contraception since 2014, apart from the good old Johnnies. So yeah, haven't been on anything since then. So now that I have a partner, I was like, well, I might as well go on something, because let's face it, Johnnies ain't fun. If you don't know what Johnny is, I'm talking about condoms. So yeah, they're not fun. They ruin the flow. They're a nuisance. If they break, you're fucked. So yeah. I was like, I'm gonna go on something, and I didn't really want to go on anything hormonal because it just doesn't agree with me. So I started researching into the copper coil. Now, like I said before, the copper coil sounds horrendous, and because it's quite an invasive thing. If you don't know what a copper coil is, it's basically a little T-shaped device made of copper. Well, it's not made of copper, it's made of plastic, and it's wrapped in copper, that sits inside your uterus, your womb, and basically acts as a natural spermicide. So any sperm that try and get into to try and fertilize an egg will be killed. So yeah, that's the point of a copper coil. The hormonal coil works in a different way. I'm not really sure how, but the copper coil, copper is a natural spermicide, so that's how that works. So yeah, and then you get two little strings hanging down just below your cervix, so it's kind of like a tampon but further up. So you know how in a tampon sits in your vagina and then the strings hang outside your body? Well, the copper coil sits inside your womb with strings hanging down from your cervix. So yes, so you can feel them, and you're meant to check them every few weeks, after your period. Check them after you have sex if you want to. My mum was very much like, oh, Alice, you'll put on weight again and you need to go on the copper coil. I know lots of people who have had it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Anyway, so I read all these horror stories, and there was nothing, and my mum was like, oh, you'll be fine, everyone reacts differently. And I was like, yeah, I know, and it's probably all the people who've had bad experiences just congregating together. So I went for it. And I decided to get the copper coil because I was sick of not being on anything and, having to worry about, oh, what if it splits and things like that, which, believe me, has happened a fair few times. It's not fun. Okay, so you can have a coil fitted at a sexual health clinic or your local GP. So I went to my GP because I knew that they had 2 trained coil fitters there. So yeah, I went there and made an appointment, and before I could have the coil fitted, I did have to have swabs, which is basically where they open you up and take a little cotton bud and wiggle around to make sure that you're free from infection before you have it, because it can like make the infection worse if you get the coil while you have an infection. And while I was there, coincidentally, I had just turned 25, so they were like, hey, have you had a smear test yet? And I was like, no. So I had a smear test done, so it was, you know, killing 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. So yeah, I had my smear and my swabs done, all fine. And then I was able to make an appointment to have a coil fitting. So I went to my first coil fitting and, you know, did the whole thing where I lay back and stick my legs in the air, and then some lady fingers me and checks the position of my womb and then opens you up with a little thing. So yeah, that was all fine. You know, it doesn't hurt. Anyway, but the bit that was really bad, well, it wasn't bad, but I mean, it was slightly uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt. So she couldn't actually get through into my womb from my cervix. So she was like, I can't get through. So I was like, right. So, and she said, well, we can give you a local anaesthetic into your cervix if you'd like. That'll help relax it. So I was like, okay, I mean, sure. So she injected a local anaesthetic into my cervix, which is not as awful as it sounds, because you don't really have any nerve endings down there. So when she was doing it, it really, really didn't hurt, like, at all. You felt a little bit of a, pressure's the wrong word, like a little bit of a, ooh, and then it's over, like, before you know it. But it was kind of a weird sensation, because even though you can't really feel down there anyway, you kind of go numb, but it's a weird kind of numbness. Anyway, so yeah, she did that. Still couldn't get through, and by that point, because she had tried so hard to get through into my womb, I'd started to bleed. And so she was like, I'm going to have to leave it. You're going to have to come back another day because I don't feel comfortable proceeding. So she was the kind of second doctor who does this, but there's a more experienced doctor than her in the practice who's been doing it for years and years and years and years and years. So she said, right, I'm going to book you an appointment with the most senior doctor in the practice. So yeah, went to my second appointment, and the doctor was quite a lot less friendly. I'd never met her before, but, you know, she was all right. And also the doctor before had said, we're going to give you a local anaesthetic in your cervix straight away so that you have time to relax. And all this time I am perfectly relaxed, so I was like, I don't know what the problem is. I am perfectly relaxed. She was like, yeah, but your cervix isn't. And they do say that the coil is better for women who have had children, because apparently your cervix never really like goes back to its tightness that it is before you have kids. So yeah, apparently my cervix was like a brick wall, she said. So yeah, she tried to get through, and just as I think she was about to give up, and she didn't jam it, but I think she kind of made some progress, because I had the most searing pain. Oh my God, it was so painful. And I was like, stop. I literally screamed. And she was like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to come out now. And because she's a cheeky little thing, this doctor. So she told me that she was coming out. And the pain was still there, but because she told me I was coming out, I completely relaxed. And as she said she was coming out, she wasn't coming out. She was going in. And she managed to get through. So she got this, basically what they have to do is they have this tiny like plastic tube that they put through your cervix, and then they insert the coil through the plastic tube. So it's like a little umbrella. It goes whoop, bing, like that. So yeah, and that hurt. That hurt so much. But only for like 10 seconds and then it was over. And she put the 5-year coil in because the 10-year coil is bigger, and she was like, there is no way we would have got that in. So I was like, that's fine, I'll come back in 5 years. So yeah, that was my coil fitting. Then afterwards, so you take painkillers before you go so that they kick in by the time the coil is fitted. So I felt absolutely fine just after. When I got home, however, I started cramping so hard. Like, I have never had this bad cramps in my entire life. I couldn't move. I was in bed with a hot water bottle, like sobbing, and my mum was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, they hurt so much. Am I in labour?" But that's just a natural reaction to your womb being like, "Why is there something that's not a baby in me? How dare you, intruder!" And then it like basically probably tries to expel it. That's why you start having contractions, which is what cramps are. So yeah, that's natural, and I read up on it, and they were like, yes, it's perfectly natural to have cramps just after you've had the coil fitted. So I was like, okay, fine. And to be honest, they only lasted like an hour. And that night I went to my boyfriend's house, and I was able to have sex like the evening that I got the coil fitted. So it really wasn't that bad. There was no like initial bleeding. I didn't bleed at all after I had it done. But a couple of days after I had it fitted, I experienced a little bit of spotting. But it wasn't like blood. It was kind of like watery blood, if that makes sense. So it was barely anything. Yeah, so... And then I got my period like a week early, and apparently it can bring on your period early. So the copper coil, I don't know about any other coil, but the copper coil can do 3 things. It makes your periods heavier, longer, and more painful. So lucky for me, I didn't experience any pain during my period. Now usually my periods last like 2 to 3 days. So I'll experience light bleeding, then a heavy day, and then another light day, and then it will generally be over. This time it lasted from Thursday to Tuesday. So usually it would have lasted till about Saturday or Sunday if I started on a Thursday, but it lasted till Tuesday. So it was a lot longer than I was used to, and it was a lot heavier as well. And also, it's really annoying because you're not supposed to use tampons when you first get the coil, because it can like push the strings back up or something. So I had to use pads, but because I was using pads, I had to change them like every hour because it was that heavy. So yeah, that wasn't fun, but at least it wasn't painful. Yay! So yeah, I've only had one period. I had this done. It's Monday the 4th of September now, so I had it done on the 14th of August, which was exactly 3 weeks ago. So I have had a period since then. I obviously don't know what my new pattern is now if I have one. Usually I'm like clockwork for my periods. But yeah, and also another question that I asked online was if your partner can feel the strings. Mine cannot, luckily. I think there was one point where he might have been like, oh, I think I felt the string, but I, it hasn't been like a mega issue, and they're soft anyway. Like I felt them, and they're kind of like pressed against the wall of your vagina, so they shouldn't get in the way. So yeah, no problems. It's so nice not having to think about condoms anymore, and I don't feel anything. I don't get any cramping at all. Like I'm literally sat on the floor, like leant over, and you'd think that with something in you, you'd be able to feel it, but I can't. I could do martial arts or a vigorous tap dance, and I wouldn't be able to feel it. So yeah, it's all good. I have had a very, very, very positive experience, and apart from the initial pain and all the stories were like, oh, I didn't stop bleeding for months. And like, I haven't experienced any bleeding since my last period, like a week ago. So I don't know what anyone else thinks, but personally, I've had a really, really good experience. All I'm going to say is that every single person is different, and you never know what it's going to be like until you get it. Like, I could have easily reacted really badly to the coil. So you never know until you try it. And the thing is, like, if you do react badly to it, you can always get it taken out, but at least you'd know that you tried. So yeah, that is my experience with the copper coil. I hope I have persuaded some of you to get it, because it really is great. And maybe I will do an update if I've had it for a few more months and tell you if I'm still feeling the same. I hope you found this video informative. Please remember that I am not a doctor and that my opinion is pretty irrelevant in life. But yeah, have a lovely day or evening, and I will maybe see you soon. Take care. I'm wearing the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Shut up. I'm wearing the Urban Decay Electric palette and the number 7 new foundation, and I love it. Oh, and this is Jeffree Star liquid lipstick in Androgyny. Just in case anyone was wondering, I'm sure you weren't, but in case you were, that's what I'm wearing. Okay, goodbye. Hello everybody. I'm coming to you about 2.5 months after my coil fitting, and I'm still very, very happy. We're in a different setup now. As you can see, I'm not wearing makeup and I am in bed, but I just thought I'd come here and update you on everything that's been happening. So yeah, I am still very happy. Auntie Flo has visited, as she should have done, and by Auntie Flo I mean my period. Yeah, so no little babies for me, and yeah, I'm really happy. I haven't put on any weight. The only thing I've noticed is my skin's really bad, but I don't know if that's something I'm eating or if it's the coil, but I've got these like little random lumps on my face, but not actual lumps, but like teeny tiny little bits of texture. I'm not sure what that is. I had a checkup, a 6-week checkup with my doctor, who looked inside, and because I was a little bit worried because I personally couldn't feel the strings. My boyfriend said he could, and I don't not believe him, but I wanted to check anyway because I couldn't feel them myself. Anyway, so I went for my 6-week update, 6-week checkup, and she looked, and I wanted to tell you this just in case anyone else gets worried. She basically said that the strings have formed little balls, so they're no longer actual strings, they're just like little, they've kind of curled up a little bit. And she said that's completely normal, especially if you're sexually active, for that to happen. So that's fine. My periods have been like clockwork still, which is what I'm used to. They seem to come like a couple of days late, but now that I've kind of got into that rhythm, I know that if I start my period, as in my cycle's got longer, I think. So if I start my period on like the 17th of one month, then the next month it will start on like the 20th, if that makes sense. So yeah, it comes like a couple of days late, but that's fine because I can just worry about that. And also I found that my body seems to be sending me more signals that my period's coming. For example, my boobs get really sore and I start getting cramping about 2 days before my period. So but that never used to happen before. It used to just like appear out of nowhere, but because it was so regular, I knew when to expect it anyway. But at least now my body's sending me signals if it's a little bit more irregular than I'm used to. So yeah, yeah, overall still super mega happy. No pain, no bleeding between periods. Yeah, happy. So I'm gonna go now. Take care.